Never thought that a graduate of William and Mary would say this, but did any of you see the Virginia-Iowa State game last night? Raise your hand. A few of you here. The rest are heathens. I was watching the game with my family last night on command from my daughter, who is a graduate of University of Virginia. And I was watching, didn't the UVA players play so well? They did so beautifully, and I was watching them move across the court and how they handled the ball and how they passed it all off. And suddenly, I didn't see a game. I saw a kind of dance that they were going through. These incredibly powerful, graceful men in their handling of the ball. And I knew that what they were doing did not involve thinking so much as it involved a kind of action and movement that is akin to a dance because it involves the memory of the body. They had no time to think through. They might have thought through some things in advance, but they had no time. Their bodies had to take over. Their spirits had to take over. And they moved so quickly you could hardly follow the ball. It was moving so quickly until it was dropped into the basket. And I began to think about the years of practice, the years of moving these moves until it became part of the depths of their body and their psyche. And it became a dance for them of extraordinary beauty. Down the court and back and down the court and back and down the court and back. And what a pleasure it was, particularly when they won. Well, what we're doing tonight is akin to that. And what we've been doing all week is akin to that. And when I look out here, I think how blessed we all are. Because we are entering into an ancient movement called liturgy. A movement of our bodies in which we come to church, not in the dramatic times, but also in the quiet times. And tonight, which is the summation of all the church year, everything we worship and proclaim is summed up tonight. This is the night, says that beautiful hymn to light, that ancient of ancient hymns to light at the beginning of this. That to move into a darkened church, that to strike a new fire, that to light candles, that to swing incense and engage our sinuses, even though they may rebel. To chant, to sing, to move, to pour water over a child's head and place oil on their forehead despite their protests. That this, when we do it year after year after year, becomes part of our body, part of our mind, and part of our hearts. Like the dribbling of the ball and the passing it and the handling of it does to a great basketball player like we saw last night. It becomes part of us so that we don't have to think about it, we do it. It's a pattern. And the pattern is resurrection. The pattern of washing feet on Maundy Thursday. The pattern of carrying the cross on Good Friday. And now this marvelous pattern of going from dark to light. Because you see, we all live in the darkness. I dare say this has been a dark week for many of us. Many of us have seen death as well as life. We've seen tragedy across the sea and realized that despite the great distance, we are one, and we can see ourselves in vulnerable places as those poor people who were killed or wounded were vulnerable in ways that they did not understand. We come here tonight carrying our own burdens and our own anxieties and our own fears. But we've come, and we've entered into this pattern, into this movement, into this dance, which is called liturgy. We've moved from darkness because we know what darkness is like. We know what emotional darkness is like. We know what it is to face the fear for ourselves and for those whom we love, to lose people we love, and to feel that agonizing darkness of not knowing what will come in the days ahead. But we light candles, and we sit with one another, and we gather as community, and we process from darkness to light, and suddenly the lights are thrown on, and we yell, "Alleluia," and that is the pattern of resurrection. That yes, there are Good Fridays, but out of the Friday comes the Easter Sunday. And so we're here. But it's not just that pattern that connects us to that ancient pattern, because part of what liturgy does also is it takes us into eternity. It takes us out of time and into time. This is the night when the children of Israel came out of oppression in Egypt and headed to the land of promise. This is the night when the burden of sin is lifted. This is the night when Jesus broke the bonds of the tomb. And that this is the night is that this is our night. That's our pattern. That's our resurrection life. It's not just back then, it's now for us. And we do it with movement and symbol and music and smell. We do it together, not alone, because we need one another. And we need to know on this night the promise ever renewed that out of the darkness comes a light. And also, out of beauty comes justice. Grant and I heard this from the rector of St. James Piccadilly when we were in London in January. She said that justice is connected with beauty, that without beauty there is no justice. And the beauty that we enter into in this church is not beauty for its own sake. It's the beauty that God uses to wrap us in God's arms of grace, to make our hearts tender, and to reach out in tenderness to other, not in hardness of heart. We learn the patterns of God's compassion as we engage the patterns of liturgy. As the basketball players engage the patterns of the game, so we engage the patterns of the game of life. And we carry God's grace through these patterns, through tender hearts, through being people of light when the world is dark. We carry them forth in our own unique ways because we've learned the dance. We know how to pass the ball of grace. And out of this, we become proclaimers of the resurrection. no matter how dark the world is. Alleluia, Christ is risen. The Lord is risen indeed. Alleluia.